Hi, and welcome to the third interview on the Everyone's Interesting podcast show. I am your host, Greg Alonge, and I'm here today with my very good friend, Chris Villegas-Sabatuk. And Chris, thanks so much for coming on the show. And we just figured that we'd talk a little bit about Chris's life and some things that might be of some interest and see where the conversation goes today. So thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
So I wanted to know if you could tell me a little bit about your life. Where did you grow up?
I come from very different worlds. I grew up in Philippines and lived with my grandmother for a long time, up until I was around 8. It was very it was very weird. I'm sure not growing up with your parents, you're kind of wondering where they were. I always was wondering where my parents were, but I loved my grandma. My grandmother was like my mom. So but I lived with her until I was 8, and then I came to the States, and then I lived with my mother and father in Minnesota, and I grew up in Minneapolis. But a lot of different neighborhoods within Minneapolis. So we moved around a lot. We were really poor, so we lived in a lot of subsidized housing, high-rise buildings, trailer parks, But for the most part, Minneapolis. And then a few months after I turned 21, I had moved out to Boston, and here we are.
So what's the thing that you remember the most about the Philippines? That's such an interesting thing. It's such an interesting piece of your history.
Yeah, so the thing that sticks out to me the most, I was thinking about this recently. Usually when I'm out in the community or walking around and I smell motorcycle gas or motorcycle exhaust, it immediately triggers me being outside on the street playing around with sticks and rocks and stuff with my cousins. A lot of people use motorcycles to get around because there's not really there aren't any paved or cemented roads. Everything is dirt. So I really think of the times that I would ride on a motorcycle with either my uncles or aunts, or I remember one trip we had gone back and I even learned how to ride a motorcycle. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that. I don't know who thought that was a great idea. But I think about that. I think about how I was really different. Out here, people think and look of me as not white. Back there, I'm very white. Kind of hard to believe, yes. But I was seen as American, and I don't identify as American at all. They assumed I was American because of my pale skin, because everyone back where I grew up was really dark. My whole entire family, they're all very, very dark. I'm the lightest skinned person in the family. I'm also they call me the Mexican because I'm the only person in my family that's something other than Filipino. So it's just me. Yeah.
So you're Filipino in your background and Mexican.
That's right.
Okay. What was the change when you did leave there and came to Minnesota? What was that like for you, adjustment-wise?
It was weird because, like I said earlier, I kind of sort of wondered where my parents were, why they left me with my grandmother. I wasn't really mad about that because I love my grandmother very much. But it was I'm gonna go live with my parents who I don't have any recent memories. So the change was very weird. So my mother, for the most part, was, I don't even want to say strict. I think I would actually say she's pretty sick. My grandmother was very firm but gentle. My mom's way of our house was very weird, random, bizarre. You name it. It's now that I'm thinking about it, if I took a step back in there, I'd be whoa, this is not grandma's house. That's not how she ran this house at all. No wonder. At first I thought it was oh, it's my fault that I'm not adjusting fast enough. But now that I'm much older, I think wow, this house was insanely dysfunctional. So yeah.
And I know that you recently had a trip to Minnesota. And what's your favorite part about Minnesota? When you think about it, what's the thing about it that you have like the best memories of?
So the Washington Avenue Bridge that connects like the East Bank and West Bank of the University of Minnesota Twin Cities goes over the head of the Mississippi. And I used to walk across that bridge 1,000, probably 1,000,000 times a day to get to classes. And I always loved the Mississippi River. I like being around water, but I really like it was like my favorite part of my school day, and also like my favorite part of the day to be like crossing over, but also like seeing this huge body of water. And it was really comforting, because the thing about that was comforting is I could hear sort of the waves a lot, and that reminded me of growing up in Philippines, where I would hear the ocean a lot, and that was really soothing to me. It's like one of those like sensory things, sort of like when I was talking about earlier, like smelling like the motorcycle gas exhaust. But yeah, I took my spouse to see the Mississippi River, and that was like really fun for me. I really love the Mississippi River. It's like something. Minnesota, I think, is one of those states where you think like that doesn't really have anything other than Prince or Bob Dylan. But it is home to like the head of the Mississippi, the largest river in the US. So, and that's something that I always thought was really cool geographically.
And what was the decision-making process about coming to Boston?
Oh, there was so much. I needed to not be in Minnesota anymore. I felt like my life was very stuck. I felt like I was not making the best choices, but also I want to try and be fair to myself. I didn't have a lot of good choices I could make there, if that makes any sense. Like, there were choices I could have made, there were better choices I could have made, but like thinking back on it, none of those choices were great options. And I felt like I had outgrown where I was living and needed something different. Kind of like, I mean, as a social worker, one of the things we talk about is like changing your environment. Even before I came into the field, I was like, okay, we need to change the environment. We need to get the hell out of here. Like, this isn't serving us anymore. It's not a great place. For a long time, I never associated Minnesota with anything good, except for my friends. But yeah, no, like going back 12 years later, I actually was like very happy. I didn't think about like sort of the bad things.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, this is something that, I mean, we've been friends for a while, and I don't know if I've even ever asked you this. Had you come out to Boston before you lived here? Before you chose to move here? You just decided, like, Boston looks really cool. I think I'm going to go check it out.
Yes.
Wow, I don't know how I never asked you that before.
No, that's so funny. I never told you that. Yeah, like, I had never been out to the East Coast at all. I was only ever familiar with the West Coast, because whenever we went to vacation on Philippines when I was growing up, we would always pass through Cali, Hawaii, and Guam, and then enter Southeast Asia. So I've only ever been on that side. And then I do have like some family in Cali, but I don't have any family out here. It was basically a blank slate that I was coming to. I didn't know what I was expecting, and I'm not gonna lie, like the first few years here were like really rough, but my life is really good now. It's changed a lot.
Now, when you first came to Boston, where did you settle? Like, what neighborhood were you living in?
I was living in Brighton. Man, that was like literally the moment that I got here was my car was towed immediately, and I'm like,
welcome to Boston.
Right. And they sent it to Arlington, because this was like a long time ago, so I don't know if it's the same anymore. All the cars that were towed in Brighton were sent to Arlington, and I was like, I don't know where the fuck Arlington is. I'm not fucking from here.
Right, it's nowhere even close. Right.
Yeah, and then I found out I couldn't even take a bus there, and I was like, oh, that's even better. So,
oh, man.
Yeah.
That's a tough welcome.
Yeah.
And when you first got here, what were you involved with? Like, what were you doing for work and all that type of stuff?
I was serving and bartending at a restaurant called Miller's Ale House in Watertown. I don't think it exists anymore, but I was working there, and I would actually tell you I was working 80 hours a week. This was when I didn't know boundaries with work very well. That's something that I've struggled a lot throughout my young adulthood was, when do I say no? When do I say, like, I need to work less? Because I didn't have to work 80 hours a week. I just decided, like, oh, that's what a good employee does, is like above and beyond. But yeah, I had been trying to find another job. It just been so hard. But I was mostly doing that, and then working for the home, and then working for CDC with kids in resi or in kids in group homes. And then was still working bartending and serving. That was when there was an Uno's down in Fenway Park. It's not there anymore for many horrible reasons that I won't go into, but
yeah, the inside track, yeah.
Yes. And then I worked for Regina's Pizzeria, which also doesn't exist in Allston anymore. Wow. I've, like, a lot of restaurants lie in my wake, Greg. I didn't know that. But
well, it wasn't your fault.
No, I would like to hope not. But yeah, most of what I was doing when I got here was like either like work with kids or like bartending and serving.
All right, so you were doing like a lot of like the behavioral work at like residential programs and group homes and stuff. Okay, so what was I know that you're a social worker and went to social work school because we worked together, but I was wondering if you could talk a little tiny bit about what was the turning point for you to make a decision that you wanted to get your MSW.
Yeah, I think the turning point for me was I had taken a lot of time off. I had been thinking about going to grad school. I wanted to go to grad school for philosophy, but I didn't know what to do because a lot of people were like, go to law school. And in my head, I'm like, not in a hell's chance is that ever happening. Or become a writer. And I'm a horrible writer. And I don't even want to think about that. Homework is not something that I go crazy for, honestly. But I think what had happened was I was thinking a lot about 16-year-old me. I had found probably one of the only assignments I had ever done in high school. Like, I'm not even lying about that. That's how poor of a high school student I was. Of, like, me writing an autobiography about myself. And I remember saying that I wanted to be a social worker. And the reason why was I didn't know anyone in my field that looked like me, specifically like a person of color. And I didn't like that. I was not okay with that. Something about that seemed very wrong. And I felt like it was the only area I sort of excelled in, if that makes sense. Like, if there were classes in high school on emotional intelligence, I would rock that. I'd be the bomb. But
I
like,
agree.
thanks. But like math, reading, history, like that's all like F or like F minus. Does an F minus even exist? Like a 0. But like that stuff has always been easy for me. Like, I don't process facts immediately. I always process feelings, how I feel, how other people feel. I pick up on how other people feel pretty quickly. Facts come like decades later. I don't want to say like decades later, but it's like it takes a long time for me to process actual facts. And I thought, wow, like I can actually make a difference. Like, because I remember thinking of Resi and all the social workers that I worked with in Resi. All these kids like really got a lot of help, not just from me, but from their therapist, their clinician, their social worker. And I was very lucky that I worked with like a lot of talented social workers. I didn't get a lot of time with them because, you know, the difference between like clinical staff and then floor staff is very divided.
Oh, yeah.
But there were some people I talked to about how do I get back into school. I haven't been to school in about over a decade. Like, I don't know, like, how I learn anymore, because that was when I was a young adult. I'm, like, a full-grown adult now, so I didn't know what that was like. And I remember one of the social workers, this was at CDC, said, listen, just try. You're much older now. You seem to me like you pick up on things very fast. school for social work is not the same as what you went to school for undergrad, I promise.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And like everything in my life, if I don't try it, I will never get to know whether or not I like it. And the worst part is if I don't like it, I don't like it, and that's that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really glad. So I applied to BC, BU, Simmons, and I got into all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up accepting Simmons, and yeah, here we are. I actually ended up doing really well in Simmons. Like,
Nice.
I got like an academic award. I had a pretty high GPA. That's like not something Chris is known for ever.
This was a different experience.
Yeah,
That's
very much.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. And do you remember anything in particular in social work school that you thought was like stuff that you were really interested in?
Yes, I think like a few things popped out to me, but mostly what popped out to me was I wanted to work in like trauma practice. My certificate is actually in trauma practice. I don't know if I've ever told you that.
I don't think you've ever said that, yeah.
So I graduated with an MSW, and then I also am certified in trauma practice by like Simmons. So most of my education was around like a trauma-informed lens, how to provide trauma treatment in different like roles. Yeah, so I wanted to work specifically like folks that have experienced trauma. I think that comes from sort of like a place. I don't mean to be selfish, but I think of like younger me a lot and what younger me went through, and thought like no one looked like me. Like I had mostly like white providers growing up, and that didn't feel safe to me. And thinking that, oh, maybe someone that's really hurt or someone that's really traumatized sees someone like me and then feels cared for. If there's anything that I'd want someone to get out of from getting therapy from me is just to feel cared for, then that means the world to me. It doesn't matter like what interventions I use, what treatment plan I put out, what your goals are. If you feel cared for, that means a lot to me.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, for a while before you started working at our agency and worked with me, I know you were doing a lot of work in substance abuse treatment and stuff like that. Can you speak to that a little tiny bit?
Yes. It's wild. I've been working so before our agency, I had worked for 3.5 years actually, working with folks that were struggling in early recovery from substance use. So I worked in a women's program that was residential, and then later on a men's program that was residential. The men's program was probably the most challenging one because that was on like the crossing of Mass and Milniacas. So it was sort of where everything was going on, and man, it's basically like the eye of the tornado, so to speak. It was, I gotta say, it was very challenging work, but yeah, I think the piece that was challenging about it mostly, Greg, was like I couldn't guarantee anyone's safety. If you left the program and I wasn't there, obviously I'm not responsible for what someone does, but they may not come back. I may not hear from them, and I might hear about you on the news. Because I have heard about seen folks that I've worked with on the news. I've seen people, I've seen people's like obituaries on Facebook, and it's like a lot of people that I worked with and provided treatment for are not here anymore.
Yeah, sorry.
It's
sad.
Yeah, that's like the hardest piece of that work is you can't guarantee anyone's safety, and you have to have faith in folks to make the best choice. Or, I mean, you know how to live your life. I don't, whether that's good or bad. I'm not really here to judge, but I think one of the good pieces of feedback I'd always gotten at these like programs was that people felt really cared for.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and that means the world to me, because like it was like, so I don't know, like I met some of the coolest people ever, like working in these programs. These were people that like the world needed. Like, I got to see the part of them. Well, I got to see all parts of them, which I'm like very honored for. I've had to see people at their worst when I'm Narcanning them, or I'm giving them CPR, or if I have to call BEST, or if they're throwing chairs at floor staff, whatever. Oh man, that was wild. But I remember like anytime I'd come into the door, especially like the Mass Milnia CAS program, they're like, "Oh, Chris is in the house. Like, we're gonna have fun." And I'm like, "You don't know that."
Well, I'm glad that you brought up what you did, because my hope anyways with our show, as we're trying to do, is there's so many different, thankfully I have a lot of friends, as you know, from other countries, out of state, and Mass and Cass is really like you said, it really is the eye of the tornado, and I just took Drew there just last weekend. We drove through. I don't know if he's probably been there before, but I don't remember, but he was like, "Dad, what's going on with all these people here?" And we ended up having to have, we just had driven through like Copley and some like really, really nice kind of wealthy parts of Boston's, and then all of a sudden here we are at this part of town, and he felt the change, and he was sort of like, "I don't understand like what's going on here." And we ended up having like a very important talk about the fact that, there were people struggling down that way and they needed help also. Can you think of one of all the work you did down there? Was there any one piece of work that you felt like, wow, like I really felt good about this particular work I did? I know you can't talk too much about clients, of course, but like anything sort of like on a nondescript level that you can think of like, and I felt really good about this piece of work that I did.
Yeah, so I'll never admit this at our agency because I never want to run groups ever again. But it was actually running groups. I felt really good about that, because the thing that was really different, at least the feedback I had gotten from the men in that program, a lot of their groups were worksheets, and like they all learned so differently. Actually, I would tell you like 95% of the people there were most likely neurodivergent. They just all learned so differently and processed so differently. I felt like in my head, I'm like, I'm not good at homework, and I'm never going to ask anyone to do anything that I wouldn't do. I'm not doing homework, so I'm not asking anyone to do homework. So I would design games, or like try to incorporate ways to have fun, but like still learn skill building. Because for some reason, I always ended up getting these groups in both the women's house. I always got grief and loss, which is like everyone's not favorite group to be in.
That's tough.
Yeah, and then I also ran like the men's trauma group. I'm like, I'm not a man. Like you all like I don't want to re-traumatize anyone either. I don't know what it's like to be any of you, but yeah, like I had to become very creative. I thought to myself, first, I remember like asking everyone's input. I was like, how do you all best learn? Like, what do you want out of this? This is your group. This isn't for, I was like, this is sort of for me, for like the BSAS guidelines, but also like, you're the ones that get the benefit out of this. Like, what do you want me to do? And of course they're like, oh, we give feedback all the time, Chris, and nobody fucking listens. And I'm like, well, I will make sure that I listen. And one of the things they're like, we just want to learn how to have fun. Like, like I don't know what it's like to have fun without being fucked up. Like that came up a lot. They're like, I know that's really sad to say, like, as a lot of them were like in their mid 40s, early 50s. They're like, I know that's really messed up to say at my age, but like I really don't know. And I'm like, okay, so like I think I can do that. And then of course they're all like, we'll see it, we'll believe it when we'll see it, Chris. So I remember making like a dartboard, like using Jenga. Like I used all of these different creative ways where like hot potato, I could like try to incorporate everyone into like moving their body, having fun, because a lot of them don't move, and a lot of them are like, well, I don't want to fall asleep in group or nod off, and then and then like not get credit. And also like it's hard for me to stay awake when you're just talking. And I'm like, okay, so I get that. But I felt really good about that because every time I'd go down to that group room, they're like, oh my God, what does Chris have cooked up today?
That's cool.
Yeah, and a lot of the guys would always say, this is so much fun. Why can't all of our groups be like that? And I'm like, in my head, I'm trying to be fair. I'm like, yeah, no, I wish that too, but also, like, some people just have different styles. Some people just act differently. Some people learn differently or do this job differently. Everyone is still learning. I'm still learning. Just because you like my group doesn't mean that like everyone else has like a worse group. I think everyone else is a great group facilitator. But that was the piece that I really felt good about, and that was like a feedback I'd gotten from like my supervisor too, is like, you're probably our best group facilitator. And I was like, oh, well, I'm always nervous.
You didn't hear that, IHR.
You didn't hear that. Please don't sign me up for that. I'd never want to run another group ever again. Yeah, because it
is a lot of work, yeah.
Yes, it's like 20 people staring at you. My like performance anxiety is like up through the roof.
Yeah.
And people would be like, oh, we never noticed. I'm like, good. That's
right.
Good. I'm glad. My skills are working.
Now, let's shift gears because we've talked already about, work-based stuff. And there's so much more, I know from our friendship, there's so much more about Chris than those things. And one of the things that I've posted some of the stuff on my social media about some gifts of some art, for example, that you gave me. And I really appreciate it, and I hold them very, very dearly. What a wonderful bunch of gifts. And I wanted to ask you a little bit more about your artwork. How did you get into art? How did you know that this was something that you liked to do? Where did that start, if you remember?
I know exactly when that started, Greg. I was 16, and I finally could take something as an elective that wasn't like had to do with writing or reading. I took drawing, and I learned so many different ways to draw. So like pen, charcoal, graphite, markers, all of that stuff. I was really good at that time, specifically with pointillism. So that's like pictures made out of dots that gives the illusion of like shading or value. And I was like really happy with how those came out. I was like, wow, I'm actually good at something.
Can I ask you something just for clarification?
Yeah.
So when you're saying that, you're saying about like, I've only learned this from our conversations, but just for the audience, so that is like literally like dots.
Yeah,
like,
it's completely made of dots. There's no lines. Yes.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah. And it like felt good because I thought, wow, no one had to tell me I was good at it. That came from within me, and that doesn't come, I mean, as you already know, like I don't feel good about a lot of things, and like when I do feel good about something without someone noticing, that means a lot to me. And it felt good because I made a bunch of cool stuff. But I like any art medium I picked up, I was just really good at. Like, I don't mean to brag, but like whether it was painting, whether it was like pen work, graphite, shading, like charcoal, pastels, I was really good at it. It was really easy for me to pick up. And then I didn't pick it up for a long time because life got in the way and there was no time for it. And then when I graduated with my master's degree, I wanted to go back to that because that made me really happy. And I wanted to find things that brought me joy as a kid again into my life. And that was something that was still the same. I was still good at these things. Like the skills really didn't go away. If anything, they got a little bit better because I'm older now, and my imagination, I feel like, is much more, my imagination is much bigger, more creative than I used to be because I was really young when I started art.
Do you have any one piece of artwork that is like, that you were like this is the best piece of artwork I've ever done, like that you can think of?
Yes. I don't have it anymore because, as you already know, I like to give my art away. I don't like to. There are very few things that I keep. I had done a pointillism poster. It was actually poster size. I can't remember the dimensions, but it was definitely more than 12 by 12 of Wolverine and his like OG costume.
Oh, okay.
I worked the entire senior year on that project, and I had given it to a good friend of mine as a graduation gift.
I gotcha. Okay. All right. So this would have been probably way before everybody having phones, and so you most likely don't have a photo of it or anything like that.
No, unfortunately. I really wish I did. I actually messaged her a while ago, and I was like, "Do you still have Wolverine?" And she said, "Yeah, I do." She it's somewhere in framed in a box of things, but I still have it. And,
okay.
And I thought, well, if it ever comes out of the box, can I get a picture of that?
Yeah.
Because that was really cool. I was really proud of that. I've never done anything that big, even since now. I feel like that's the biggest piece of art I'd ever done. I was 17, 18.
So how big was it? Was it really, really big?
It was poster size.
Okay, poster size. Yeah, like you were saying before. Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I remember having to roll it up.
Oh, wow.
To give it to her because it was so big, and I don't fold anything for art if I can help it. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna try to see if we can do that. Splice some of your artwork in so the audience can see what your art really looks like, and that shouldn't be a problem. I don't think, because I think that I've seen a lot of your artwork on your social media, and I think maybe what we'll do is once this is ready to be aired, we'll put. We'll figure out some way of getting your artwork so it can be linked if that's something that you like, and that way people can take a look at it for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
So shifting gears, I wanted to ask you a little bit about two questions that I really am thinking more and more that I want to ask on this show to just provoke thought and have people think about things. Maybe both of them will be suitable, I'm not sure, but if you had to think about, and this is a deep question, if you had to think about any purpose that you feel about being here, any purpose at all about why you feel like your soul is here on this planet, what do you think that would be? Like the first thing that pops into your brain?
That's really tough. The first thing that pops into my brain is I sort of have this absurdist point of view of the world of it's going to be a little controversial, but this is what I truly believe in, is that nothing really has inherent meaning in this world. We assign meaning to it. That's sort of the absurdist stance of philosophy that I really believe in. So I sort of make the meaning for myself, and that means also that I don't make anyone I don't ascribe anyone meaning to their purpose in life or whatever. That's for them to figure out. Whatever's important to them is meaningful to them. Who am I to say what's meaningful to you or not? But the meaning I would give myself is just to make this. I think I would like my purpose to be is to make this world a little bit better than when I found it when I first got here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds great. I guess the only other thing I could think of for today anyway is what would you want to be remembered for?
Wow, that's tough. Legacy things. It's really important though. I think I would want to be remembered for as someone that tried. I feel like a lot of my life was avoiding things because I was scared to try, because I am someone that does not like change. I'll openly admit that. I like things staying the same, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. But I want to be known as the person that tried something or did things. I don't want to be the person that's that remembered as someone that didn't go out and try and live life. I like think about a piece of art, ironically, that I made about moving out of Minnesota to Boston. I remember my mom saying like, "Oh, that's gonna be really hard. You're gonna be broke and poor." She's wrong. Mostly. She was like, "Oh, you're gonna like basically fail out here. You're gonna be miserable." I mean, she wasn't wrong about that, but I was never gonna know. Like, I was never gonna actually know unless if I tried. And I'm glad I tried because I ended up having a wonderful life. And that's how it's been with like most of the things that I love to do now. If I never took a chance on it, I wouldn't have loved those things that I love now, because a lot of the things that I really like now that I never thought I would try when I was younger, like I have a lot of joy in my life because of that. There was suffering and there was disappointment, but at least I tried. But yeah, I think I answered that.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome answer to that question. I don't think I had too much else today. I really appreciated, everything that, number one, the time and the conversation, and brought up a bunch of stuff that's really, really interesting to hear about. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the time and space also.
Okay, cool. Well, this has been the Everyone's Interesting podcast, and thanks so much for tuning in, and hope to see you soon. Take care.